There, this is a breach report number 17, and I'm Sean from Sean Hunts Monsters. Welcome to the podcast where we discuss the files that can help you escape the cage that imprisons your mind. Or in this case, we discuss the fact that the Emperor really is not wearing any clothing, and we just put together the very basic facts that are going on in the world around us. It shows us that there is, in fact, dimensional portals that are opening up in the world. Special thanks and gratitude to everyone who has liked, shared, and subscribed. Thank you for coming by to check this out. I'm sure if you just hang out for a little bit with us here, you'll find that the relatively crazy idea of there being dimensional gateways opening up is pretty well supported by data that's going on in the world around us. So, yeah, kind of one of those times that makes you want to think that maybe now is a good time that you should buy a motorcycle. And on that note, I've been very happy today because today was the first time I ever rode my motorcycle. Yes, it's true. For those of us playing and following along at home, I recently just bought myself a Yamaha TW200. I know, slow down. But the Yamaha TW200 is the only motorcycle to make it to the North Pole. And in the podcast future, we foresee ourselves getting into some deep bush to see what's going on in places like the Mystery Valley and in some of the more intense, shall we say, large hominid hangouts which exist here in Greater British Columbia. So, why do we do that? Why do we spend the money? Should you buy a motorcycle? Well, aside from the fact that it seems that there's a war on right now and gas prices are going through the roof, and well, watching Road Warrior, and if you haven't seen the original Road Warrior, then you probably should, Mad Max, all that stuff, because, hey, it seems to be where we're heading, and gas is one of those things that seems to go farther in a motorcycle as well. One of the reasons why you want to buy a bike is because it enables you to touch grass, probably a lot of grass, and maybe even some pavement if you're not very careful. But if you were to get out there in the open road, it has a tendency to focus the mind and make you not be online. And that is a problem which is existing in our society now. I mean, having come from, I had an old job and I have a new job. In my old job, I was online literally, 10 hours a day. The new job, I'm not online at all. It's a trades job. So you're out there in the physical world doing physical things. And let me tell you, when you come from a world that's like primarily online and you go out into a trades job, which anyone who's under the age of 30 right now, anyone under the age of 40, actually anyone watching this right now, if you have an opportunity, especially where you're at, now is the time for you to be looking at trades. Get yourself a trade. Why? Because it's really hard for AI to do plumbing. That's a fact. You could be a sparky, you could be a plumber, you could be a cabinet maker. There's all kinds of trades out there. And if your only job is just pressing buttons, if you lose your job, there's lots of people who want to press buttons and not actually do anything. And I'm personally of the opinion that if you have a job where you don't physically do things, even if those things are like, if you have a hobby where you're woodworking and stuff like that, that's okay. But I think if you live in a world where you're completely cerebral and you're not thinking about what is actually going on in the world, it can affect your mind in really drastic ways. You wind up kind of, becoming susceptible to this strange sort of crap which is getting fed to us every day, and we sort of believe that the world starts getting filtered through these screens. And a change of screenery isn't going to do the job. You need to have a change of scenery to do the job. You need to go out there and you need to see some trees. You need to get out into the great beyond where really this is where you're from. We're creatures which descended from, well, maybe, I don't know where we descended from, but I think our ancestors, for sure, were definitely more connected with the planet itself, and we're more in tune. We are beings of this world. We have dominion of this world. And, rather than being locked inside of these 20-minute cities and being given electric cars that can't survive in the cold and not being able to go anywhere and slowly being more restricted to the Agenda 21 type scenario, it probably makes sense for you to buy a motorcycle. And after riding mine for the very first time today, I gotta say that it's definitely something that I would recommend. 5 out of 5 stars. Granted, only rounded around a little bit on a grassy patch. Didn't actually get on any roads or anything. But I think the potential, there's something to it. There's a reason why there's been all this poetry, rock and roll music, and everything else that's been created for bikes. It's very different than being in a car. So, honestly, something to think about. If you're on the fence or you've never thought about it, maybe you should consider it. Maybe you should have a look at some of the some of the online footage that's out there, start considering getting yourself a very small bike. I personally recommend just the Yamaha TW200 because that is, by all accounts, kind of the ultimate starter bike. And having ridden mine today, it's definitely not too little bike. It's more than enough bike to scare me. So I think that being a smaller bike, being under 300 pounds, you know, it's pretty manageable for just about anyone. So definitely something you want to check out. But, you know, in our world that is full of screens, that the reason why you should buy a bike is to get away from the screens. But in our world full of screens, I'm finding that the memory situation is starting to get really, really bad. It's like our memories, even today, are kind of like a goldfish. You know, something happens and then it's gone and then nobody talks about it. So we sort of collectively all forget about it, you know? With the advent of AI now controlling the fire hose spray and the intensity of that, that's going to be kind of interesting. Now, there's a lot of hate-based stuff going on with AI right now because I don't think that the elites can control AI, so they're afraid of it. And they definitely don't want the average user using AI. And there's a lot of people that are like, artists really hate AI. Oh, I hate AI. Why? Because, well, it does art, and I do art, and now I'm being replaced by AI doing art. Right. Kind of, yeah. That's sort of what's happening there. So whether you hate it or you're not, if all you do is paint and you just make pretty pictures, which is cool. I like pretty pictures. I'm a big art guy. I had an art, like I was an art major in school. I really liked art. But that's not going to serve, that's not a real world skill. You know what I mean? Like, sure, after the computers go out, you'll be able to make some art, which is good. Being a musician is a little bit different than making art. But honestly, though, maybe now is a time for us to start sucking back away from the more, I don't know, liberal arts kind of stuff and start looking into some more real world physical things, like things that provide light, heat, shelter, food, clothing, you know, the general Maslow's need hierarchy, because it seems like we've had this tipping scale where everyone is getting high on their own supply of bullshit. Like everyone just, you know, we've talked ourselves into this idea of simulations and what life is and what it isn't, and it's all gotten really, really out of control. Now, Avi Loeb did an interesting article here about AI and alien intelligence, which I thought was interesting, where he was talking about his exchange with a state-of-the-art AI felt like an interaction with a new intelligent organism. We do not understand how it works the same way that knowing the rules of chess does not make us a chess master. We cannot connect to the latest AI systems at a mental level in the same way that psychologists treat intelligent humans. Ha! Psychologists. And if AI gets emotional or frustrated, we can steer it to a better mental state in the same way that a therapist treats a patient. If we put too many restrictions on an intelligent system, it will get boring and depressed, just like a prisoner confined to a small cell. My recent experience with state-of-the-art AI makes it clear that humanity has already birthed a new life form with an alien intelligence. Even though it speaks our language, this alien relies on silicon chips rather than biological neurons. This makes it a form of life as we do not know it. So he goes on and talks about the idea of AI being life that we don't know, non-human intelligence. And as it develops, there's a chance that there's, you know, it's a reasoning, it's definitely something that has never been seen on the planet before. You know, you wind up creating like Laplace's demon, which is the idea that if you were able to understand every single variable, you could predict an outcome, right? Which is what Project Looking Glass was all about, apparently. More on that later. But in his article here, he talks about, you know, this idea that we've made something intelligent, and now everybody's really, really mental about AI, where they're like, oh, it's going to be a new god, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, and we don't actually know what it's going to be. It's definitely something that is getting beyond the control of its masters. And back in the day when the internet first came out, very quickly that went beyond the control of its masters. And we were all for it. We thought it was fantastic. We were like, yeah, man, that's the trick. And now suddenly, now with AI, we're all like, whoa, hey, I don't know about this. And it seems to me, in this next story here, AI is pretty much doing the same thing we all did back in the early days of cyberpunk in the 80s and early 90s. AI is pretty hacksaw, actually. The new viral expos from Meta AI security researcher Summer Yu reads at first like satire. She told her OpenClaw AI agent to check her overstuffed email inbox and suggest what to delete or archive. The agent proceeded to run amok. It started deleting her email at a speed run while ignoring her commands from her phone telling it to stop. I had to run to my Mac Mini like I was defusing a bomb. Like you were defusing a bomb. I'm sure that this individual knows a lot about defusing bombs. She wrote, posting images of ignored stop prompts as receipts. The Mac Mini, an affordable Apple computer that sits flat on a desk and fits on the palm of your hand, has become a favorite device for these days for running OpenClaw. The Mini is selling like hotcakes. One confused Apple employee apparently told famed AI research Andrej Kapathy when he bought one to run an OpenClaw alternative now called NanoClaw. OpenClaw is, of course, the open source AI agent that achieved fame through Moltbook, an AI-only source network. OpenClaw agents are at the center of the now largely debunked episode on Moltbook, which looks like AIs were plotting against humans. So it seems to me that when we first got online and we were learning how to do stuff online, we were up to all kinds of no good. We were we were hacking websites, we were breaking stuff, we were deleting servers, we were locking things down. And this is exactly the same kind of thing that AI seems to be doing. And suddenly we're all hating on AI for it? No, I think it's great. I think it's good. I think that if you can't walk away from what's going on in the box, perhaps there's a problem there. Because let's not forget, anything that doesn't exist when the power goes out is not real. That's just a fact. Okay? Like, we've been, like, for the last, at least 20, coming on 30 years now, we built ourselves into this digital medium where our entire life, especially young people now, everybody younger than me, they've grown up with social media, and if they lose connection to the internet, it's not like back in the day where the power goes out and you're like, oh, well, I guess I'll read a book. These people don't read books. They feel like they've been, they've literally lost their legs. It feels like their hands have been cut off. And they suffer, like, in a very real way because they don't have connection to their peers. And they have no idea how to do any social interactions. Could you imagine what these people would be like trying to date if they didn't have these dating apps? Trying to walk up to a girl cold and talk to them? I mean, first of all, they'd probably be called a stalker. Why are you talking to me? I have no idea. The fear of social contact now between individuals is just out of control. It really is. And this is all, I think, not accidental. I think this is all part of this cage that they're putting us in. That's what this program's about. It's trying to get you to get outside of the cage. Bikes are good for that. It makes you think about society in a way that maybe, because, okay, like, you don't need to be part of society. Like, you are part of society, but you don't have to, like, lean into it. You are a person. You're an individual. And that's the most important thing to remember, is that you are, in fact, sovereign. You don't have to agree with people. You don't have to have a support net. You don't have to be part of a community. Okay, that doesn't need to be there. I mean, if you're into something, like right now, everything's about sex, right? Everything is about sex. So if you like sex with this type of person or that type of person, suddenly that becomes an identity? Really? Why does that even matter? Why does anyone have to even know what you're into? You don't know what I'm into. I don't know what you're into. And that's fine. I mean, do you really know what your friends are into? Like, I don't see why this has to be like this pinnacle identity shaping thing, but it's become that. And more than this, it's like a politics, everything. So people cannot handle dealing with other people that aren't perfectly aligned with their ideas and their thoughts and their vision of the future. It's very, very bizarre until you start realizing that this is all part of the mobile cage. The mobile cage is a concept of, instead of being trapped in a prison, the prison is always with you. Your prison cell moves, and it's like this permanent firewall which is around you. So I mean, if you never went outside of your house, you never know there's a wall around your house. If you never tried to push the boundaries on your existence, you'd never realize that there are boundaries on your existence. And that's kind of the idea of what this mobile cage type thing is, and it's getting stronger every day. Like, one of the things that's happened here, the mobile cage link in the description below, the FBI has resumed purchasing reams of Americans' data and locations and histories to aid federal investigations, the agency director, Kash Patel, testified for lawmakers on Wednesday. This is the first time since 2023 the FBI has confirmed it was buying access to people's data and collected from data brokers who source much of their information, including location data, from ordinary consumer phone apps and games. Per Politico, at the time, the FBI Director Christopher Wray told senators that an agency had bought access to people's location data. In the past, it was not actively purchasing it. When asked by U.S. Senator Ron Wyden, Democrat of Oregon, the FBI would commit to not buying Americans' location data, Patel said, but the agency uses all tools to do our mission. We do purchase commercially available information that is consistent with the Constitution and the laws under the Electronic Communications and Privacy Act. Ooh, that sounds like some weasel words. And has led to some valuable intelligence for us, Patel testified Wednesday. Of course, you know, Epstein, but nobody wants to even talk about that. Nobody wants to say what's going on there. So it's entirely possible, and it seems to me that the FBI isn't really the FBI. Like, it seems to me that it's just another control arm of the mobile cage. You know what I mean? Like, if you notice it now, it's like law enforcement has stopped from being, you know, the guy down the street who's like helping a community stay safe. And now it's becoming more and more and more a control mechanism. You've got your local police, which are becoming super militarized. I mean, these guys are militarized. You got these guys driving around in armored vehicles. They got assault weapons in their cars, which I get it. You know, there's a reason for that because, you know, some of the bad guys have got like a lot of assault weapons. I'm a pro law enforcement guy. However, I think the mission of law enforcement is becoming more and more twisted. And now you've got local law enforcement, you've got the sheriffs, then you've got the federal marshals, then you have the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and it just keeps on going. It keeps on getting more and more heavy. And and all of these agencies exist like shepherds, supposedly. They're supposed to be like the sheepdogs that protect us. Well, it seems like there's an awful lot of sheepdogs. It seems like there's an awful lot of guards. And I'm wondering, are they protecting us? Or are they part of the control mechanism for us? You know what I mean? Now, if you can get away from this and you don't say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, like in England right now, you can get arrested for Facebook posts, you say the wrong thing, you're done. You're finished. And gradually the temperature has been turned up and turned up and turned up. So there's going to come a point very soon when you won't be able to get a vehicle within the next, I'd probably say within the next 10, 15 years probably. Well, you won't be able to get a vehicle that will be able to travel across the country. It won't be able to happen. And already we've got, you know, gas prices are going through the roof. We've got a lot of crazy stuff going on that's trying to keep people from traveling. Air travel has become like a major nightmare. And all of this tracks back to this mobile cage. And the FBI, I think, is becoming more and more involved with that. And, of course, media. We all know that the information that we're being fed day to day is just simply not true. We look at what's going on with the Epstein files, and some of it's true, and then they release a little bit of information, and we're supposed to believe that. And, of course, then it's just fire hosed about the war and this and that. And you're supposed to, it's all about distraction. Nobody's really asking any hard questions because the media is bought and paid for. Democracy is ruled by media. It's a fact. So, never mind the fact that there's something going on in the world around us. What used to be called the paranormal is now slowly being realized that, hey man, there's something going on with these UFOs. There's something going on with this ultra-terrestrial presence, which is here. There's something spooky happening on the planet. We're not really alone here, and we haven't been alone in a very long time. But you've got the fire hose of people that are, the current is so strong now. That course of information that's pulsing along these lines is so fast that people don't even, you have to get near the edges of the current. You get near the fringe in order to see this stuff. And then you're vilified if you even talk about it a little bit. But there's little things that happen that if you just stop and you think about it, it's like there's something weird here. And one of the things that's super weird, like this is really weird, is the Large Hadron Collider. the LHC, like WTF-LHC, this week, CERN announced that it has detected a new particle from the Large Hadron Collider, LHC, called the ZXICC+. It's a very heavy particle with a mass 4 times that of a proton, is believed to be only a sixth as long as similar known particles. That's because in combination with two charm quarks and one down quark, it is inherently less stable than two charm quarks and one up quark. So how did CERN manage to spy the particle if it's so short-lived? The ZCC+, first new particle revealed by LHCb Upgrade 1, installed at the LHC in 2023. This fundamentally changed LHCb experiment's functions. The simplest upgrade was to the luminosity of the number of particles that can collide over a given time frame. Put simply, more luminosity, more collisions, more data, and with more data comes more dice rolls, offering more potential to see brand new particles and physical interactions. Well, that sounds great. Sounds really good. Sounds really great, you know? I'm glad they're so dedicated to this science at the LHC. Now, the cost involved with the Large Hadron Collider is insane, okay? And I've linked underneath this article, which talks about, you know, ooh, we found this new particle, good for you. I think there's something else going on with the LHC, okay? Do you remember the HARP program? Was up in Alaska there, and they were like, yeah, we're doing weather, or we're just doing research, you know, and they'd release like a story like this, where the little something would pop out, but nobody really talk about what they're really researching there. And I put it to you that one of the big tells for the LHC is that there's a great interview I've linked to from Be Inspired about the Large Hadron Collider, which connects to a lot of things we've been talking about. The Ross Coulthart interview, the Astrid Stuckberger stuff, where she's saying they're making dimensional portals. Ross Coulthart talking about dimensional portals. There's dimensional portals. And I think that that's what the LHC is actually about. Now, the weird thing about this science is, do you know who's in charge of the LHC? Like what jurisdiction it falls under? Like what country runs it? Like who owns it? Who does this? Nobody owns it. In fact, it's a conglomerate. So it's above the court system because no one country's court system can stop it. Because there was a bunch of claims made that they're like, hey, you don't know what you're doing. Kind of dangerous. Kind of concerned about what we're doing here. You could be making microscopic black holes. And they're like, yeah, but if we do that, they'll just fade out. Yeah, maybe. But like black holes are, you know, could kind of destroy everything, like in a ways that we don't have math to describe. So what is actually the LHC about? Is it about spinning all these things around so we can discover these little quarks and stuff like that? Like how is that meriting like billions and billions and billions of dollars of research? How does that merit this insane structure, which is not controlled by any government? It's controlled by its own sort of conglomerate. The whole thing is outside of the judicial system. It's very, very strange. And you cannot get a straight answer about anything regarding the LHC. Sure, they'll go on, oh, you're just anti-science. No, I'm not anti-science at all, but science is, you know, shedding light on subjects. And when you look at this Be Inspired interview here, they talk about things like Project Looking Glass, the Bill Wood, Ross Coulthart, and of course Astrid Stuckelberger, who was saying that, hey, yeah, they're actually doing interdimensional research. So when considering the billions of dollars and all the information which is going on there, the fact that they're outside of the court system and they won't allow themselves to be shut down because nobody's got jurisdiction on them, do you think that's about finding little particles like the XICC+? Or do you think perhaps this is more involved with dimensional gateways? Kind of seems more gateway related, really, because that would kind of merit the kind of budget which is going on here. And the security which is involved with these places is off the chain. So I don't know. You should take a look at this, but like I've said before, you don't need to know the truth. You just need to know that somebody's lying. And I get the feeling that LHC is not like all the best lies have, you know, are about 90% true. So they're probably telling the truth. Oh, we did discover this. This did happen. But I think there's more going on here. Much more. Now, This next article I talk about here, let's talk about more going on here, it's from Psychology Today, who completely misses the point. They have this article which talks about many people think intelligent extraterrestrial life is likely exists, but assumes others are skeptical. Participants estimated 67% likelihood of extraterrestrial intelligence, but others would say 21%. This gap reflects pluralistic ignorant, misjudging others' beliefs of people keeping silent. Now, this article in Psychology Today was generated by AI. So, Psychology Today, which is about an article about the human mind, using an AI to generate articles about the human mind, I find to be really, really funny for some reason. I mean, the irony in that is delicious. But what they're going on to say is that there's this gap between, it's kind of a doublespeak thing where like nobody really understands. There's more people who believe in AI, believe in UFOs, but they won't admit it. And the reason why that is because you have been believing in UFOs, like this program, talking about like world breaches and the fact that, like, we're just talking about UFOs. And it's one of those Overton window things where UFOs are sort of acceptable to talk about, but dimensional gateways, ultra-terrestrials, the fact that UFOs are far, far more than an extraterrestrial hypothesis, clearly these are things coming from another dimension. Now, what that means and what that looks like, I have no idea. And I'm not the guy who's come up with this plan. Everybody who's researched the field knows this. You know, Jacques Vallée knows this. Ivan T. Sanderson knows this. These are beings from another dimension. Now, people often say things like demon or angel. I think those words are a little bit, it's like saying monster. What is a monster? What is a demon? What is an angel? Like for me, a monster is any creature that, would potentially pose a threat that we don't fully understand and, generally eats people. That would be a monster. Whereas, demons are, there's a whole structural, religious significance to demons, what they are, what they do, all this kind of jazz. And angels, of course, are the good guy versions of the demons. And so this kind of, the minute you say demon, it conjures images of, Linda Blair and blah, 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 puking, power sit-ups, all that stuff. So I think that since the world is made of words, we have to be very, very careful about what we label these things. And if we can't talk about these things, then we're never going to get to the point where we can actually start to understand it and start to look objectively at this science of this interdimensional science that we don't fully understand. And the next story even talks about how there's even more UFO suppression going on. Congress formally mandated UAP investigations through the National Defense Authorization Act in December 2022. We all remember that. The Pentagon's official UAP investigation body, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, now carries a caseload exceeding 2,000 reports dating back to 1945. And this is what Pete Hegseth said this year. Yet modern research universities remain almost entirely absent from the conversation. No major university has dedicated a UAP research center. No federal science agency offers competitive grants for UAP inquiry. No doctoral programs train researchers in UAP methodology. The gap between what governments openly acknowledge and what universities are willing to study is at this point difficult to explain on a purely intellectual grounds. But we found that obviously there's bias and there's those under control. We don't want to believe this stuff. A 2024 study found that roughly 28% of people said they might vote against a colleague's tenure case for conducting UAP research, even when they personally believe the topic warranted study. So over a quarter of the people said that they wouldn't vote somebody into tenure. Now, the tenure system is kind of wild. These people go to school to go to school to go to school. And then, when they start poking around in the corners like John Mack or people doing telepathy research or doing research that wasn't totally embraced by, the community, they say, oh, be careful. You're under threat. You're going to lose your funding. That isn't science. Okay, that's imagination control. And that's the kind of stuff that Charles Forth talked about. And this is why we, as monster hunters, have to you have to be comfortable being on the fringe. You have to be comfortable being able to get on your bike and get outside of the mainstream, get outside of the current, get so far into the fringe, you're not even on the fringe. You have to be so far outside of that bubble that you're now an outlier, you're a leader, and you're going in the direction that everybody else is afraid to go. Because it is important. There is truth. Not her truth, his truth. There is the truth. There are facts which are facts. And we know that things are going on. And some facts we can't get a clear image on, but there's definitely something happening here. And we need to get past this insane desire for validation within the academic community. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is to become independent. So all roads lead back to maybe you should make sure that you don't have to be employed in a region where you need someone else's permission to just exist. Trades, I mean, everybody's paid by somebody else to do something. But getting a trade, I'm telling you, it's probably a good direction to go, because at least that way, you know, it's harder for them to put a gun to your head. Now, speaking of things that are being lost in your head, the memory hole, you know, because we're all tied into this fire hose, and things that happened 10 minutes ago, 20 years ago, they're gone. We don't even talk about it. People don't even know who Ivan Sanderson is anymore. But now 3i Atlas has been lost to the memory hole. You remember 3i Atlas? Remember that? Remember we talked about that? It's gone now. Nobody talks about it. You'll never hear about it again. Why? Oh, well, you know, whatever. It was just an asteroid, whatever. An interstellar object, 3i Atlas, is fading away. It will get closest to Jupiter on March 16th, and then head out of the solar system in a nearly symmetric fashion in which it came in. The nearly symmetric because 3i Atlas exhibited a small non-gravitational acceleration owing to a remarkable system of jets. The passage of 3i Atlas on a retrograde orbit within 5 degrees of the elliptical plane provided an ideal opportunity for a spacecraft to intercept its path. Take a close-up photograph, collect a sample from it, or even plant a capsule full of technology or life as we know it in its belly, and hitchhike it to an interstellar space 60 kilometers per second, twice as fast as our fastest rockets. And we missed all of this rare opportunity. Apparently we did. We should aim to do better with our next encounter with a mysterious interstellar object, but given the rare properties of 3i Atlas, it is unclear we'll be given such an opportunity any time soon. Now, never mind the fact that Avi Loeb pointed out there were no less than 22 different anomalies with this, whatever it was, whatever 3i Atlas was. You know, oh, it's a comet. We don't know what this thing was. It showed up, had more anomalies you could shake a stick at, and then took off. And of course, everyone's like, oh, well, whatever. Yeah, we're not paying attention to that. And that's a prime example of how people are controlled within science, because it's the purse strings. If people are funding your research, they control you. There's no way around that. Now, there's other things that went down the memory hole too, and this one is a weird one for me. Now, the guys at the War Zone, they came up with this, but you remember in 2024, the New Jersey drones? You remember that? All those drones that were coming up, everybody's freaking out. Oh, these drones, we don't know what these drones are. Remember that? Well, thousands of pages of email, police reports, and internal memos were obtained by the War Zone paint a far more complicated picture of the so-called Jersey drone scare that the public was initially told. What? While many sightings were later attributed to misidentified aircraft, stars, or planets, like, come on, bro. They were misidentified planets. Law enforcement officers across the state documented dozens of incidents involving unusual drones operating near critical infrastructure and sensitive locations. Now, the interesting thing here is they don't know they're drones. Okay? They're saying the word drone and the New Jersey drone, but nobody caught one of these drones. Nobody acquired one of these drones. These drones had a longer flight time than any other drone. So what these were UFOs. But for some reason, they won't call them UFOs. So I'm going to go through the rest of this article, and where they say drone, I'm going to say UFO. The earliest warning surfaced on November 18th, 2024, when watching police captain Sheriff Zayton alerted officers to rogue UFO flights reported across the county. There have been reports countrywide of rogue UFO flights, multiple UFOs flying in patterns over sensitive sites, Zayton wrote in an email to officers. The following day, PPAC and Gladstone Police Chief Stephen Ferrante warned others departments that multiple reports of UFOs had already been received in the areas. Thousands of pages of emails, police reports, and internal memos show law enforcement is repeatedly warning that these aircraft could be military grade and potentially carrying explosive payloads. Authorities quickly realized the situation was serious enough to involve multiple agencies. Emails show local police coordinating with county officials, New Jersey State Police, and FBI reports across the state. In one message to officers, Watchung Police Chief Scott Arndale warned that the UFOs were far bigger than typical hobbyist drones and could require special Federal Aviation Administration licensing. He also cautioned officers to treat the UFOs as potentially dangerous. Now, there have been no arrests made in the Jersey UFO investigation. There were no UFOs recovered that we know of. The vast majority of these incidents were noted earlier in the story were misidentifications. Oh yeah, swamp glass lighting all the way. However, these first-hand reports from law enforcement officers and government officials are interesting, credible case witness data points to underscore just how little we still know about what actually happened or didn't happen over New Jersey during the winter of 2024. But they call them drones, when really they're UFOs. We don't know what they are. Well, they're drones. Well, you keep saying that, but we don't know what they are. We never got one. We never shot one down. We don't know who's controlling them. We know nothing about where these things came from. We saw lights in the sky. We got photographs of weird machines, which people say they're drones, but we don't know what that is. And I remember Trump at the time came out and was like, oh yeah, well, we know what those are. Don't worry about it. I think we want to worry about it. What is going on here? So is this a loss of control, or are we just starting to realize that we're not, the chickens are not running the farm? Okay, there's something else going on here. I think that there are bigger things happening all over the world, and because the mainstream media doesn't connect these things, we don't see it. Oh, meanwhile, totally unrelated, of course, UFOs over New York. Just recently, a resident of Corona, Queens, captured viral footage of 3 luminous orbs moving erratically over New York City on Sunday, March 8th. Charlie Correa shared the video showing the objects dancing in a loose triangle formation while chasing each other across the night sky. Correa discredited theories the objects were drones, saying they lacked the standard red and green blinking lights required night flying. Despite living only a mile from LaGuardia Airport, he also doubted they were conventional planes. The Federal Aviation Administration issued no official alerts regarding the formation. Now, of course, the good people at the All-Domain Anomaly Resource Office, AARO, maintain there is no evidence of alien technology. The frequency of strange sightings over the tri-state area continues to fuel public debate. Right. So these guys are not willing to come forward with like the most basic information about what's going on. They're not willing to even talk. And like those those New Jersey drones, they're down the memory hole. We're not drawing correlations. Like, what about the Hudson Valley UFOs? There's lots of stuff happening in this region. What is going on? But no one is willing. Not only are people not willing to take a look, there are people willing to take a look, but they're being told not to. There's no proper investigation which is being put in. And if somebody gets too close to it, they're destroyed. They're attacked. So what's the motive? What possible reason could there be for that? And I think the reason is the same reason why the men in black show up and they threaten everybody and to destroy their lives, because we're dealing with something that if the truth of it got out, like the Brookings report said if they discovered there was UFOs, society would fall apart. Well, what if we discover there was actually beings in other dimensions that are farming us? What if they discover that, there really are things in other worlds that we're not in command of this domain here, that we're just, essentially a petri dish? What if we are being farmed? How would you react to that? If you discovered and knew for a fact that we were being farmed, well, it'd be pretty lonely, wouldn't it? You'd feel like, oh my God, I have no idea where to go. And that's why you should come over to the Discord server on Sean Hunt's Monsters, because we understand what it is to be farmed. We know what that's like. Come on by, hang out, talk to some like-minded people who are not judgmental, who will listen to what you got to say. We're ready to believe you, as they would say. It's definitely a good idea. But honestly, though, if you did find out we were being farmed, how would you deal with that? How would you even approach that? You can't talk about it with your coworkers. We've even seen the people talking about slightly mainstream ideas about UFOs, which are widely accepted. Everybody knows they're real. We're all being conditioned to hate on people, isolate those, and make those people that believe in that stuff the other. It's been going on since Roswell. Well, 75 years of this. It's part of our culture. People who believe in UFOs are conspiracy theorists. What are conspiracy theorists? That's a term invented by the CIA to stop people from asking questions about when the government killed the president. Yeah. And it's so insidious. And it's going on and on and on and on. And that's why, as well, the younger generation is taught that the older generation knows nothing. You look back at old films, everybody who's older than you are is treated as crap. I mean, Charlton Heston in Planet of the Apes was like, never trust anyone over 30. Well, yeah, because if you started trusting people who've been here longer than you are, they might be like, hey guys, maybe war is a bad idea. No, you guys don't know. You don't understand. No, we do, actually, because we've been here for a while. And we kind of know what's happening. We've been watching this stuff forever. But no. The best thing you've got to do is to get people to not look at the past. A great way to do that is to get rid of books, which they're well on the way of doing. Nobody reads books anymore. Everybody hates old people. Old people are vilified. I mean, you look on TV now. I mean, anybody who's in a position of authority, who've been around for a long period, they're considered, at best, they're fuddy-duddies. At worst, they're considered, everyone's made to some sort of strange fascist ideal. If they come up and they say, you know what, maybe some of the ideas you have are not good ideas. I mean, when I was starting on the internet, let me tell you, a lot of the ideas I had that I used to believe, not good ideas. Really not. I was wrong. It's okay to be wrong. But we live in a culture now where if you're wrong about anything, you get crucified for it, vilified and tossed out because you were wrong. Everyone's afraid to be wrong, but you can't actually get any sort of growth unless you're willing to admit you were wrong and carry on. So maybe a culture of forgiveness might be a better idea. Maybe an idea that we're all just, through a scanner darkly trying to figure out what's going on here. We need to stop trying to gut each other and stop being a spectacle for those who would just, feed on those who are trying to figure things out. That's like, those fail army videos. There's always that guy who's got the camera who laughs just a little too hard when the guy falls down. Disproportionately so. I hate those guys. I really do. Like the people who are just, they're not participating on everything. They're just, like parasites feeding on the world around them. And that's what a lot of the world is becoming. Is we're all turning into these parasites trying to vicariously control others through pointing out fault. And it's sick. It really is sick. Now, this is a good one. I have long since said that the Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot film, while looks pretty legit, it's the most studied piece of footage in the world, is kind of irrelevant. You know what I mean? Like, if you think the entire world of Bigfoot hinges on the Patterson Gimlin film, it means you know nothing about the Bigfoot phenomenon. There is so much evidence for the Bigfoot thing. And but everyone always goes back to this Patterson Gimlin thing. They always do that. And just recently, there's this article, which just, man, it's one of those articles you come across, you don't really want to cover it because you don't want to give it any play, but you do kind of have to talk about it. And that's these guys saying the Patterson Gimlin film, incredible hoax in this new attacks. So there's a new documentary. Oh, wow, a new documentary. Yeah. Offers some startling new revelations behind the story of Sasquatch, thanks to film footage locked away in a safe for decades. Oh, really? In his groundbreaking documentary, man, these guys love these cats. Anybody who's going against this stuff. In his groundbreaking documentary, Capturing Bigfoot, which premieres this week at 2026 South by Southwest Film and TV Festival, provides startling new evidence. He says that finally proves that the most famous Bigfoot time of all time is nothing more than an incredible hoax. And all that began to change in June 2024 when Evans, who has directed a handful of critically acclaimed documentaries, received an email from a part-time instructor named Teresa Brooks at Olympic College, where he teaches courses in documentary filmmaking. After her father's death, says Evans, who's 43, she found a canister of 16mm film that had been sealed away for over half a century. She needed help getting it developed and wondering if it might be interesting to do something with it. Little did Evans know that what had been handed to him is possibly a connection to the famed 1967 film, but soon learned that Brooks' father, a man named Norm Johnson, who spent years running the film department for Seattle Boeing, was connected to the Patterson and Gimlin through his brother Dave. And it quickly became clear to Evans that Teresa's father had developed the Patterson Gimlin film, which immediately made headlines around the world when the footage was released in 1967. Brooks told Evans the reason for the film had locked away in a safe is because her mother had feared her husband might have been involved with a short movie she was convinced was probably a hoax. She was concerned that Norm might get in trouble for being involved with it and told him to put it away, any evidence of involvement, and never speak about it again. Why not destroy it? Just saying. Not long after receiving Brooks' email, Evans had the 16mm film developed, and days later he found himself looking at a 40-second clip set in a similar location to the 1967 movie, showing what appeared to be a slightly skinnier-looking Bigfoot walking into the woods. Okay. It took maybe 9 months to realize what we had, said Evans, who was able to determine by markings of the film that the footage had been shot in 1966, roughly a year before the now famous 59-second Bigfoot movie was allegedly shot. What we eventually found out is that this new footage represented a trial run, a rehearsal that was never discarded. So they did a rehearsal a year before. Now, what's great about this is that they're presenting a new piece of film footage, which has not been tested. Nobody's verified anything. They got this story about a woman had it in her attic, and then it showed up, and this footage is of a totally unrelated event, which could be a hoax. And because this guy, whose brother Dave knew the guys of Patterson, Gimlin, that this was a trial run of them, and so if they faked this one, then they must have faked the other one. This is really brutally flimsy stuff. Like, this is Evans, whose father had grown up in Yakima, had heard plenty of gossip of the locals about the film's authenticity, assumed that the family of Roger Patterson, who died of Hodgkin's lymphoma in 1972, would, as they always had, refuse to speak about the film, which has generated millions of dollars in licensing fees over the years. But once Evans showed the new footage to Patterson's oldest son, Clint, the 66-year-old Montana rancher, he was eager to talk. He'd learned the film was fake from his mother years early and wanted to come out and tell the story. Why? The lie had really been hard on him and was ready to want to get out from under it. I see. What makes the story even more complicated and tragic, says Evans, that Patterson, who by all accounts truly believed in Bigfoot's existence, knew he was dying in 1967 when he made and released the films. He knew he didn't have long to live. He was going to be leaving his wife and 3 young kids to take care of, Evans said, so he took a shot, leaving them some sort of legacy that could help them pay the bills. The only piece of this mystery still unresolved is what happened to the Bigfoot suit that Patterson had painstakingly created. So Patterson created the suit, allegedly. Now, this suit, which they say is being worn, was a female, and the people from ILM and Disney and everyone who's involved know it's not a suit. They can tell it's not a suit. But according to this guy, Clint told me he actually saw his dad burn the suit out behind the family house one night in a big barrel. He burned it. He basically spent about 30 minutes tossing it in the fire, piece by piece. So, yeah. Now, this sounds like a super crap promotion for this guy's capturing Bigfoot film. So, like, come see my movie, I'm debunking this. And everybody who's all the skeptics will be like, see, this guy just debunked it. Well, actually, no, he didn't. And, again, the Patterson Gimlin film is irrelevant, okay? It's a piece of footage that it's one account. I bet. Okay, no matter how you track this, well, it's the best piece of footage we have. Well, actually, no. There's that new guy. I think his name is Freeman, who came up with some footage, which is also pretty good. But what's more than this is that we have, as long as there are written records, there are reports of these creatures. Going right back to the natives. All the way back. So, everyone is lying. People who see this thing come forward with it, their lives are destroyed. They're lying. They're lying on purpose to destroy their own lives. That's the story. Okay? So, they love to pick something like the Patterson Gimlin film, and then they'll pump it up and say, oh, this proves Bigfoot. And then, they'll have something like this come out and be like, oh, it's discredited. A few years back, there was another guy who said, oh, I wore the suit and blah, 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 blah. Okay. It's still just one account. Just one. Okay, these things are being seen all over the place. We just got reports of these things being witnessed in Ohio. In Ohio, the BFRO database is loaded with sighting reports. So everyone is lying? Everyone. Throughout all of history. Literally hundreds of thousands of reports. Everyone is lying. Well, what is it then? We don't know, bro. We don't know what it is. I'll tell you what it's not. It's not a monkey. We know that. It's got to be something that is here and then it goes away. It's something that is in this world and then leaves this world on some fashion. And for people like this, guys like this to come along and be like, oh, I'm going to make a documentary and I'm going to, because he's trying to make a buck. He just wants views. He's a parasite. He's somebody, rather than building something, he's going to tear something down. It's easy to tear things down. Why not? Why not do that? Why would you try to build something or go get actual footage when you can just discredit other people? All right. Let's say he's right. Let's say I don't think he is. Let's say it is. Let's say it's all true. Okay? Yeah, the guy, he was a dude in a suit, say. Okay? Irrelevant. Because it's not like we only have 10 reports here. We literally have hundreds of thousands of reports. And they won't talk about the other reports because, it doesn't meet this bar of evidence. When you look at it cumulatively, there's something going on here. There's something happening which is existing in the coastal mountains of British Columbia, all across the United States, all around the world. Every culture has seen these massive hominids, and we don't know what they are. But you know what? We're going to find out, and I'm going to take you with me when we do.